You know how sometimes what starts as a small private issue just explodes? That's exactly what happened here. What began as a simple family disagreement has now snowballed into something that has everyone talking across the country. This isn't just about marital problems anymore, far from it. What once could have stayed behind closed doors has now spiraled into public scrutiny, shocking allegations, and serious conversations that no one saw coming. And the speed at which all this unfolded, honestly, is almost hard to believe. As soon as people started speaking out, lawyers stepped in and activists got involved. The situation went from private matter to full-blown storm of controversy. This is no longer just about one family. The story has moved into the public eye, and it's clear that things are now much bigger than anyone could have imagined. Everything changed the moment Regina's brother was arrested. Suddenly, what might have stayed behind closed doors was dragged into the spotlight. People who have stayed quiet all this while started speaking out. Old wounds and past grievances resurfaced, and everyone began watching closely. It was clear at that point, this was no longer just a family quarrel. The situation had escalated into something much bigger, a matter that had drawn attention far beyond the household, with serious implications unfolding in real time. Now let's move directly into the accusations, because at this point, it's clear that Ned is no longer dealing with just a family dispute. What he's facing now is bigger than Regina, bigger than Sammy, bigger than any marital misunderstanding. This is something threatening his power, his position, and honestly his entire public identity. And the sad part, he was warned. People begged him to calm down. Let Sammy go. Let the matter die. Let the girl breathe if she no longer wants the marriage. But in a typical fashion, he chose ego over peace. The same ego that made him feel insulted by Sammy's actions. The same ego that pushed him to prove a point. Except he doesn't realize something. In trying to redeem his bruised ego, he was opening a war front against himself. Because the moment he laid hands on Regina's brother, the moment he dragged the police into what should have been a civil matter, he awakened people who had kept quiet for years. People with history, people with receipts, people who have suffered in silence. And suddenly, the accusations started pouring out like a river, breaking its banks. When you look at all the allegations that have surfaced, one theme stands out above all else: the repeated and alleged systematic use of the Nigerian police as a personal instrument. This isn't just one isolated incident. It appears to be a pattern spanning years and touching multiple victims. There's Tuma, a young TikToker, whose crime was allegedly accusing Regina Daniels of having children that did not belong to Ned Nwoko. For this, he was reportedly arrested by the police at the behest of Ned, detained under harsh conditions, and eventually forced to apologize publicly. He was granted bail, but only after 4 months of suffering under an unjust system. Then there is Jaruma, an Instagram entrepreneur selling herbal aphrodisiacs. She faced what many described as oppressive persecution, allegedly orchestrated by the same individual, using the police to intimidate and detain her. In his village, 9 young men were reportedly imprisoned simply for challenging him over land acquisition for his sports university projects. Ordinary citizens standing up against him found themselves in detention, an action that went far beyond personal disputes into the realm of intimidation. Another case involves a young woman whose father was allegedly hijacked. She cried out across social media, exposing how her family was being dragged into a web of fear and control. Taken together, these examples paint a picture of a man who allegedly leveraged wealth, status, and political influence to make law enforcement work for his personal objectives. And now comes the deeper question: how is this even possible? Psychologically, these patterns suggest a belief system in which power equates to immunity, where personal grievances justify extraordinary measures, and where ordinary rules of law are selectively applied. It raises the question: what does this say about someone who sees the national police as an extension of his own will? How fragile must his ego be to justify, in his mind, these extreme actions? Legally, Nigerian law is clear. The police are charged with protecting public safety and enforcing the law, not executing personal vendettas, arresting someone for a civil dispute, for defamation, or for challenging an individual's personal authority is not permitted under the Constitution. Even cybercrime allegations require due process, evidence, and independent investigations, not handpicked midnight arrests. Structurally, it's alarming because these actions expose weaknesses in the system. When one person can allegedly bend the law enforcement to their will, it sends a chilling message to the public that influence and money can replace justice, and that citizens may be defenseless against arbitrary power. In essence, the allegations against him go beyond personal ambition. They reveal a pattern of entitlement, impunity, and fear-based control, a worldview in which rules are optional and human lives can be manipulated for ego, revenge, or self-preservation. This is why people are paying attention, because the danger isn't just the individual acts, it's the pattern, the audacity, and the system that allegedly allowed them to happen. Just when it seemed the story could not get any bigger, new allegations emerged. Allegations that stretch beyond the family quarrel, beyond civil matters, and into territory that shakes the foundation of how people view power, influence, and morality. Not just do we have a man who is controlling the Nigerian police as though they are his errand boys, we now have allegations of him bringing in underage girls into Nigeria from countries like Morocco. These allegations are coming from Omoleye Sowore, and these are very serious allegations. While the details are still being verified, the claim itself is enough to make anyone pause. This is the same man who, as is being wildly reported, allegedly married Regina when she was just 17 years old, a fact that her international passport reportedly confirms. He traveled with her internationally with the same passport, as it is said. So when you line these allegations side by side, the questions come naturally. What is the rationale behind such actions? We have marrying someone at 17, then we have these accusations of bringing in underage girls for, the kind of purposes they bring in those girls for into a country. Now, what's the rationale behind this? Is this about money? Could it be some form of advanced pimping, using influence and network for financial gain? Or is it a different kind of scheme, one that involves power, control, and perhaps exploitation of the vulnerable? Nigeria can understand the seriousness of these allegations because they touch on issues that strike at common moral and social values: underage marriage, exploitation, and abuse of power. I don't want to believe that someone like Sowore can make these accusations without proof. But even without proof, the fact that these claims are circulating and are backed by prominent activists like Sowore forces us to question the intentions behind such behavior. I do not know. This is someone who is said to have a lot of money, a lot of control, a lot of influence. So now these allegations are coming in. Now I'm beginning to ask, what was the reason of bringing in those girls if these allegations are true? Remember, we are still operating within the borders of allegation until it is proven in the court of law that this actually happened. But within the borders of this allegation, what exactly was the reason? Because I am seeing this person as a person that is very rich, has a lot of money. So what's the purpose of bringing in underage girls into this country for the purpose that they are brought in for? What is the need? I can't just wrap my head around what is the need for this, especially for someone who has a reputation to protect. In short, these allegations force Nigerians to grapple with a difficult reality. When wealth, influence, and power intersect with questionable morals, the consequences aren't just private. They ripple into the society. Beyond the local controversies, Ned Nwoko now faces allegations that stretch into international professional life. According to Omoleye Sowore again, he has been using his status as a licensed lawyer in the UK to engage in a series of shady deals, transactions, and arrangements that, if true, go against professional ethics and potentially international laws. The claim suggests that his activities were not isolated or minor. Rather, they form a pattern of leveraging his legal expertise and international connections for personal gain. This has drawn attention not just locally, but across borders, with ultimate goal of challenging his ability to continue practicing law. Advocates are pushing for his license to be suspended or revoked entirely. and for formal investigations to be opened in the UK. The suggestion is that Ned has, in the past, used his knowledge of the legal system to orchestrate deals that protect interests that ordinary Nigerians or international authorities might not be aware of. The seriousness of these claims is why calls have been made not just for suspension, but for extradition to the UK, where he would be held accountable for any proven misconduct as a legal practitioner. If these allegations hold, the case could cost Ned far more than public opinion. It could end his professional career internationally and further expose him to legal scrutiny far beyond Nigeria's borders. By now that we have seen the weight of the allegations against Ned, from wielding police like a personal tool to shady deals and international scrutiny, it's clear that he's facing more than just public criticism. He is facing a challenge to his own very power, his image, and his control. And yet, amidst all this chaos, there is one thing he has insisted on again and again: Regina must come back. This isn't new, for Nigerians. This has come to be recognized. His insistence is almost like an anthem. The calls for therapy and rehabilitation are repeated, rehearsed, and relentless. But when you look at the full picture, it's striking. I've talked about this before. Naturally, given everything that has happened, the accusations, the public embarrassment, the world would expect any man in his position to want to cut ties, to completely dissociate themselves from this person. And the reason are easy to see. Regina has publicly accused him of many things no one would dare speak of in the open. Allegations of forced intimacy, accusations of domestic violence, claims of marriage underage, even stories of abortion and pregnancies before marriage. She has dragged his name through mud that no amount of money or power could easily wash away. Social media children online, ordinary Nigerians are all calling, insulting and mocking this person they would never have dared to do that to before. Anyone would expect a man in this position to say, enough is enough. Let this end. Walk away, distance himself from her, grant her the divorce, just to wipe away the shame and, just go so I can rebuild my reputation. But this is not what we are saying. Instead, he is persisting. He wants her back. He insists she undergoes therapy. He wants her rehabilitated. On the surface, he frames it as care, concern, even love. But something deeper is at play. Something that makes us question his real motivation. Why insist on bringing her back when the natural human reaction to the shame, disgrace, and public scrutiny would be to step away entirely? This is where the story becomes more than a marital quarrel. This insistence, this need to control the narrative around her, begins to look less like love and more like fear. Fear that the truth she holds could escape, exposing the man behind the image. Fear that his carefully constructed life, from his business deals to his political clout, could unravel. Now, in the past 6 years of his marriage, despite having Laila as his other wife, we have seen it play out. Regina was always the one at the center of everything. His movements, his political activities, basically everything. She was closer to him. So my suspicions are she has seen, she has heard, and she knows too much. And if she isn't within his control as his wife, she is a danger. She is a threat to his life, to his political ambitions, to basically everything. She's like a ticking time bomb. She might have a lot to say that could, damage his political ambition, his career, his life. And we are seeing a man who a lot of Nigerians are now beginning to back him up, saying this is just a caring husband. But looking beyond that, we are seeing fear of losing someone who has so much information. I used to think that maybe he envisaged that one day she would want to leave. That was how I thought. But judging from everything that is happening now, I don't think this man ever thought for one day that she would actually walk out and leave completely. Maybe he envisaged that there will be issues, but not really her walking away completely. Maybe if he knew this, he wouldn't have exposed her to the many things he exposed her to, which I think now is the driving force for wanting her back. Fear, fear, fear. But that's not only it. We have something else, and we're going to be looking at that now. Now, see what is happening here. This man isn't just asking for Regina to come back because he's a loving husband or because he cares. No, it runs deeper than that. Remember his associate, a lawyer or some sort of representative. I didn't take time to find out who this person is, but this person spoke on the matter. If you remember his words in that video, you would understand the seriousness of this entire situation. The message he related was clear: Regina must return, and there are consequences for those who stand in the way. They don't know what is coming for them, he warns, and adds that her brother now faces a litany of cases lined up against him. Her brother, this same Sammy that wanted to stand in the way, Sammy that helped to take Regina away from his house. These aren't casual words. They are a signal to a coordinated pressure meant to bend the situation back under control. Now we are looking at another critical reason why he wants her back. Aside from the fear, the driving force to bring her back under control just so she doesn't expose a lot. She's vulnerable now, yes, and she can definitely do a lot of damage. But looking beyond the fear, now let's look at something else. Imagine for a moment the power of controlling the narrative, especially in a world where social media speaks louder than any court of law. Every single thing the public is saying about him, the scandals, the accusations, the mockery, the insults, can all be turned on its head if he has control over this one person. If Regina is back under his influence, she can become the tool that reshapes the story. Naturally, someone in her position, young, under pressure, with comparatively less to lose, could be made to say things that shift the blame, excuse her past statements, or even recast the narrative entirely. Let me explain. If she's back within his control, she can't always come out to say, hey, I was taking substances, yes, he was right, I was under the influence of this, I was just angry and bitter, everything I said was a lie, carefully orchestrated just so I could get back my own pound of flesh. Imagine just for a second what that would do to the entire narrative that is flying all across the media right now. Once she makes these statements, I was misled, it wasn't my intentions to cause harm. Statements like this, whether true or not, have enormous power. They can dilute every accusations leveled against him, weakening the credibility of the people and forces who are pushing back against him. She's the key to, reshaping his image into that person we used to know him as. If she comes back within the fold, if she's back under his control, trust me, she's going to grant interviews, she's going to say things that will change every single thing. In fact, it's going to be a 360-degree turn. And once she begins to talk that, yes, I was under the influence of this, I didn't know what I was talking about, trust me, his image is going to bounce back. And every other public accusations, even those from Sowore and the likes, will be heavily diluted. There is this saying that it is the rat inside the house that tells the rat outside that there is fish in the basket. If someone from the inner circle has information about you and they are working with your enemies, trust me, downfall is imminent because this inner person is the key. But if he brings her back, she's going to do damage control, she's going to save his reputation, she's going to reshape everything. It doesn't just stop there. Once he has her, the way is open for counter accusations. He can now claim that anyone speaking against him manipulated her or used her words without her consent. He can frame opponents as aggressors. You see the likes of Sowore now, all these people that are backing Regina, whether for their own personal gain or for whatever reason they are backing her, they are not going to find it easy if he ever gets her back. He's going to possibly use her. Remember, we are still operating within the borders of allegations. None of this is a true fact. This is just a psychological breakdown. But it's possible that she's now going to be used as a tool not only to reshape his public image, but also to create counterattacks that will attack the very people that are now fighting him. He can now frame the opponents as aggressors, and in doing so, drag the matter through a legal social maze that confuses the public, buys time, and shifts attention from his own vulnerabilities. Every external critic, every whistleblower suddenly finds themselves facing a mirror of accusations, carefully designed to dilute their original claims. This isn't just about protecting secrets, it's about returning to the status quo, the image of power, respect, and untouchability that has defined his public life. To achieve that, he cannot do it alone. He needs her by his side, because she's the key to rewriting the story in a way that restores him. Without her, the narrative remains fractured, messy, and potentially damaging. So when you see the insistence, the calls for therapy, the relentless demand, you understand that it's not just about concern or love. There is strategy there. There is calculation, and there's a recognition of just how much influence one person, one carefully controlled voice, can have in a world where perception often equals reality. This is why Nigerians are watching so closely, and why, despite the festivities, the celebration, and the apparent freedom, Regina's position is far from safe. You know, there is this talk that she's off, she's in Lagos, she's safe. I do not think she's safe. She's key to a lot of things, so she's operating within the borders of what I call danger zone. Every move she makes matters because in this power game, control over her is control over the story itself. And unfortunately, she's making a lot of mistakes. But despite the mistakes, she's still a danger to him at this point. So it's clear this is no longer just a family issue. What started as a private dispute has grown into something much bigger. Allegations, accusations, and public scrutiny that cannot be ignored. For the public, the debate is now unavoidable. What exactly is being protected here? A marriage or a reputation under fire? Every move, every statement, every action is being watched, analyzed, and questioned. And until these questions are answered, the story continues to grip Nigerians everywhere. But for now, all we can do is to watch and see how the story unfolds. And definitely, if anything new comes up, we're still going to analyze them. We're not going to be looking at the surface of what they want us to see. We're going to be looking beyond that into what they don't want us to see. If you've enjoyed this video so far, please consider subscribing. Support this channel by simply clicking that subscribe button. It's free. We're trying our best to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers, and your subscription is instrumental to making that a reality. Thanks as you support this channel, and please stay tuned for more. Remember to leave your comments about what you think about all this, what I've analyzed so far, whether you support, whether you're against it, whether you believe me, whether you think something else is playing out. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section.